Welcome to the Mini Brains of the CEO with Simone Little. I am so excited to be talking to you here today. This is my first episode of this podcast. And so I don't know, I'm just excited. Today, we are going to be talking about the thought that every CEO has at one time or another. Am I crazy, or is business supposed to be this hard? And let me tell you, I've said this to myself more times than I can count. And every CEO that I've talked to, I guarantee you, every single one has said some version of this too. But here's the thing that I've noticed over time as I keep hearing this phrase or some variation of it. It's not a random question. It always gets asked when there is a decision point, when something in the business isn't moving quite right, when it feels like you're forcing, what is the phrase, a square peg into a round hole, when the work, the clients, the structure, the direction, none of it's fitting anymore. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, that's exactly what I've been saying to myself, this is for you. And I want you to know that this thought pattern is not signaling that you're failing in any way, shape, or form. But what it is telling you is that you are at a decision point. You are at a transition point. This is a transitioning signal. So it is important that you listen to it, you name it, you claim it, because you can really figure out what is next from there. These things that we typically are deciding during the time as a CEO typically surround topics like, what do I actually want my offer to be? What do I want to offer my audience? Man, who even is my audience? Why does this business feel heavier instead of easier? Because I created it to feel ease, but it's not feeling like that. Why am I building something that is aligned, or am I building something that is going to burn me out? Am I building this business just to survive? And for a lot of us, instead of slowing down to really take the time to answer those questions, a lot of us do one or two things. We push harder, we keep going, or we freeze. That's it. Listen, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to do nothing at all. And those are both natural instincts, but neither one of those things actually help you. In fact, let me tell you a personal story of when this was the loudest for me. Like, it still comes back up every now and then, but I remember there was one time in my career in which this was absolutely the loudest, right? This was my heavy burnout era. So, once you think back, toward the pandemic, and at this time, I ran a virtual assistant agency. Child, we had 22 clients. And when I say we, I really just mean me. Who was the we? There was no we inside. It was just me. Me. I was exhausted. I was burnt out. I promise y'all. I was working from about 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. Mind you, this is during the pandemic, right? So my kids are home. My husband was furloughed. You would think I'd be using this little pocket of time that no one would have expected to be spending time with them, but I wasn't. I was working completely maxed out, and I remember thinking it shouldn't be this hard. And so I did what a lot of people do when they feel like they have too much on their plate. I need to hire somebody. Okay, cool. Right. Hired people. 3 to be exact. Child, ain't nothing get easier. So I was the person that I'm gonna keep pushing, right? I'm maxed out. I'm thinking it shouldn't be so hard. How do I add lightness? I'm gonna keep pushing, right? I thought this would fix it. It did not. In fact, it made things worse because I was managing people into really chaos. I was bringing them into the chaos that existed, not cleaning up any of the chaos and not training or teaching them a daggone thing, right? So it made things worse because the problem wasn't capacity. It was really a misalignment. Because can I be honest with y'all for a second? Let me be honest. A lot of this work that I was doing, I wasn't even doing a good job at. That's the crazy part. I sucked. There were areas of what I was doing as a virtual assistant, and I was like, honestly, I'm trash. Y'all paying me for this? But there were a lot of other areas where I was really good at. I was like, actually, I am in my zone of genius. The problem is that I was just doing too much of it. And I did not take the time to think, because the demands of the business was constant output. The demands of the business were to keep producing, keep doing, keep going. So the question changed from, is business supposed to be this hard, to, is it supposed to be this hard with the people that I hired? Because it still sucks. So eventually I made a huge decision. I let go of all 22 of them clients, y'all. I closed that business down. I was so tired. I could not do it anymore. And I took 6 weeks to figure out exactly what I wanted. And again, remember, this is the pandemic. So time just looked differently back then. Pandemic money was not real money. Pandemic timelines were not real timelines. Things look differently. Today we have other problems like, inflation, our bills are real, our responsibilities are real. You can't necessarily take 6 weeks off to figure out what is going to work. However, the feelings are the same. The feelings are real, right? So that thought, am I crazy or is business supposed to be this hard? Is rarely about the business being hard itself. It's about a decision that needs to be made. And that is why it feels hard. So for me, like I said, I pushed. I kept going, let's hire some people, let's do some things. And then when I realized that wasn't going to work, I said, let me take time to actually figure it out. Not freeze, I'm still making progress, but let me think instead of pushing, right? And so those decisions are typically about things that need to change. What needs to change in your business? What have you been holding on to for far too long? And what no longer fits for the version of the business that you are creating? And I want to tell you guys this. A lot of times when we get to this point, I've heard people say, well, the problem is that you're not appreciative for what you have. You need to be grateful. Oh, no, that's not where I'm going with this. You're grateful. You're grateful. You don't need a lecture on gratefulness, right? But you do need realism, because a lot of times these things feel hard because you're responsible for everything that's going on in your business right now. So things have a certain amount of weight to it. You don't want to make the wrong choice, right? You have your livelihood on the line, your family's livelihood, and if you have anyone that works for you, their livelihood too. And those consequences really feel real. They are real. They don't just feel real. There are real things that can happen if you make the wrong decision because you're carrying so much of the responsibility. These pressures are very valid. And like I said before, we get here and it's two paths. We push harder. I did that. We freeze. We don't do nothing, but then we don't have any clarity. And so let us in this conversation create a little bit of clarity, right? Let's reframe things just a bit. So instead of asking ourselves, am I crazy? Is business supposed to be this hard? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to say that you're crazy, but I'm going to tell you it's not supposed to be as hard as what it feels like right now. But I want you to ask yourself, what type of business do I actually want to be building? What you're trying to find is alignment. And I know that is a term that gets overused nowadays and can be somewhat of a buzzword. But honestly, are the puzzle pieces matching up? Are they aligned appropriately? Right? But in order to figure out what type of business you actually want to be building, I need you to think about how you want it to look a year from now. 5 years is too far into the future. It's going to feel like something mythical instead of something real. And I'm not talking about saying, well, I want to be a billionaire. I mean, if you're close to it now, then absolutely, right? But most likely, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to say most of my listeners are not someone who is edging on billionaire status. But if you are, hey, how you doing? But I really want you to stay grounded in what you want this business to look like a year from now. And so in order to do that, you have to ask yourself where you are right now. Where are you in your business finances? Where are you in your business team, your business operations? How is it running? Where are you with your marketing, with your lead generation, and all functions of your business? I want you to ask yourself, where are you right now? How much time are you investing into the business on a daily basis? Not just the actual work of the business, but the actual running of the business. So not just inside the business, but how much are you spending on the business? Like, these are really important questions for you to back up and ask yourself. And then I want you to really think about, if this is where you are now, where do you want to be a year from now? Just a year. What changes would you like to see differently in all of those areas, right? And so that's the exercise for you. I want you to write it down. Take 1 hour, take out your calendar, open up whatever app you use, your planner, whatever new shiny planner that you got for the beginning of this year. Break that bad boy out, the one that you said that you're going to use, right? Break that bad boy out and mark an hour of time on it for this week, not far into the future. And I want you to write down what's working, what's not working, what feels heavy, and what feels unclear. And I want you to write down where you want to be again a year from now, what the income range look like, what the workload look like. How do you want to feel inside of the business? And ask yourself, what is the first realistic step that I can take with the time and capacity that I actually have? This doesn't have to be the perfect first step. It doesn't have to be the most. It should not be the most expensive first step. The real next step. So let me just give you an example of how that might look. Let's say you write down everything and you say, you know what, my lead generation sucks right now. So there are different ways that you can remediate this to say, hey, a year from now, I want to be bringing in a consistent, 4 leads a week for my agency, for my business, for what it is I do. So what's the next step? Is it going to be hiring a $10,000 a month marketing and sales agency or lead gen agency? Yeah, I would not recommend that as your first next step for where you are right now. But could it be, you know what? Each week, I'm going to put aside an hour of time and batch 2 pieces of content. I'm not going to overwhelm myself. I'm going to pick my platform and batch 2 pieces of content in that hour. And I'm going to do everything that needs to be done, captions, some stock graphics, whatever it is that you want to create. And I'm going to schedule it so it goes out that week. And I'm going to do that every day, every week for the next 6 weeks and see what changes and look at the data and then build upon that. Right. Say you're going to, maybe you're already doing that, so now you're going to double it. You're going to start on a new platform. There are a lot of little different next steps you can take. You're going to follow up with some leads that had died that are in your pipeline. Like, all these things are real next steps that you can take. Because here's what happens: movement, even if it's just a little bit of movement, make things feel lighter. It makes things feel easier. It makes them feel not so heavy. So when business feels hard, please believe this is not because you're failing. Instead, you're just at a decision point in which your mind and your body is signaling to you it's time to realign. So you need to give yourself a little space to do that. So instead of continuing to move forward with exactly what you're doing, I want you to pause a moment for clarity so that the next decision that you make gets you closer to where you actually want to go. So I want you to pause. Remember, when you hear yourself asking yourself, am I crazy? Is business supposed to feel this heavy? I want you to pause. I want you to think about what feels misaligned and the decision that you need to make, and choose the next step that fits into your real life, to your next stage of your life. All right? That's what I want to do. That's what I want you to do. And this is how you break through the am I crazy or is business supposed to feel this hard barrier? All right. Now, I want to know how it goes. So make sure that you DM me on Instagram at the Simone Little and tell me how this episode helped you, if you were able to implement any of the things that were suggested here and how it went for you, or if you just need a little bit of advice. All right. I hope to talk to you there, and I'll see you in the next episode. All right. Bye.